Welcome to the Player Layer podcast, where we talk about board games and game design. Today's guest is designer of Arcana Magica, a 2 to 4 player card game featuring risk, unit and resource management, and deck building mechanics in a competitive setting. Hi everyone, this is the Player Layer Board Game Design Podcast, where we will let you in on conversations with game designers, publishers, and people from the board game industry. I am your host, Ivan Alexiev, and today I have with me a very special guest, Mr. Mihail Ivanov, the game designer for Arcana Magica. Could you please introduce yourself, tell people about your game, a few words about yourself?
Yeah, a few words about myself. I don't really want to call myself a game designer because I just designed one game so far. Although I do have some experience with video games, I'm more of a board game designing enthusiast, I would say. Because academically, I am doing my PhD on narrative and gaming narrative and video game narrative. So I am really into telling stories and how do you actually tell a story when you play or create a game?
Wow, that's very impressive. I didn't actually know that about you. I haven't done my
It's not
research
that
enough.
much.
But can you tell people about Arcana Magica, what it is, how long you've been working on it?
Working on it, it's a big story because basically I started working, to say so, on Arcana Magica the moment where my friend Dilyana Buzhinova gave me as a gift her 22 tarot cards, the major arcana of tarot, as a birthday gift. And that was 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, it's a bit hard to remember so far. And I was just super impressed. I was just starting into the hobby. I guess I had a few games by then, like 5 or 6 games. But being 30 something, birthdays do remind you of aging. I have already seen how much fun it is to play board games and how nice it is for people my age. I mean, just gathering around with friends, playing a few rounds of something, or booking a really serious date for 4 to 5 hours playing a deep strategy game that you can really invest in. Because with time passing, I felt that I couldn't play a lot of video games. So getting back to it, I knew that I had some potential in me, to create games. And I knew that these cards deserve to get one. So at the start, I was kind of frantic about it, just setting an hour to think on the game, passing it down with friends, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? But to be frank, it wasn't coming. I mean, it wasn't coming together, and I just decided to leave it off. Just play my games, live my life, go forward. At this point, I was moving from Sofia to Barcelona, so that really kept me busy. But the cards, they stayed with me. I mean, wherever I was, I just had these cards, not even looking at them, just sitting by the bedside. And 3 years after, it was the end of 2018, October. I was watching a Netflix documentary about patterns in nature. So the documentary was about how different shapes, go around in nature, how bees made hexagons and so on. And then in the next moment, they just showed 5 dice, and the 4-sided, the 6-sided, the 8-sided, the 12-sided, and the 20-sided. And they said, these dice were around before we had language, before we had culture, to say so. What we had was these small boats that were traveling around the Mediterranean, but people meeting, they couldn't speak between each other, but they played games. And in that very moment, it just kind of flicked. I mean, it was amazing for me because it took me half an hour to draft out the rules, then another 15 minutes to just lay out the mat, tear down the cards, and I had the first prototype.
Wow. And how would you say does that first prototype compare to what the game is now? How different is it from the first prototype? Because you've kept the same components, like you still have dice, cards, and a tarot deck.
Definite. I would say it's almost the same. Really, a few rules changed. I had the biggest issues with ending the game. It was kind of getting into an infinite loop at some point and balancing out. But the core idea was there from the start. I really had to make cosmetic changes, and I must say I did make it a lot easier. So the initial prototype, the initial version of the rules kind of stayed like an advanced version of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've played the game many times, by the way, and I really like playing it. It's one of those games, it's a small game, but it still somehow gets you into a very specific type of mood. Maybe it's because of the artwork. There is plenty of randomness in it because, you know, your main mechanic is dice, but you also have plenty of decision making. And for a small game, it's definitely worth looking into. I feel like most people come for the artwork, but they stay because of that feeling that they want to play it again and again. Just because it's so simple, but at the same time, it's very fun. And we actually played last night with you on. We streamed it, and I feel like I can still feel you having fun with playing your own game, which I see very few designers after what you said. You said it was like 5 years. I rarely see a designer who still has fun with his own game.
It was 5 years ago when I got the cards, but the first rules came out end of 2018. So it's not that long time, not that long of a time. But yeah, I'm glad to say that because I do have fun. I mean, even with my girlfriend, we still play from time to time. You know, just going to vacations or sitting at home. I really enjoy playtesting, and I really enjoy. I don't even call it playtesting, to be honest, and it's just playing for me. But yeah, it gives me joy.
So last year is when we actually met. We've been friends for about a year, and we went to Essen together. You guys had already printed some promo copies of the game, and I think you got a lot of interest. So what are your plans going forward now with the game?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Essenspiel because it wasn't a turning point to say so, but it was a point of comfort. I mean, kind of a foothold that you can establish. Because as we mentioned, going through the game, after the first playtests, I knew it wasn't a ready game, but I knew that it had potential mostly because of how people reacted to it. I mean, they were like, okay, let's play another. And for me, that's a really strong indication of a good game. It goes to show that people are ready to invest their time because you know, especially when you're talking with friends, and I guess most of game designers do that because it's the natural way. I mean, you always ask your friends, you always try to play around with the people that are close to you. They would always say, yes, it's a nice game, it's amazing, you know, keep on, you know, just leave me out of it, it's fine. But when people tell you not it's a good game, they tell you, oh yeah, man, I want to play again, I think I have a chance, you know. So that's what really gave me confidence. But it's still, you know, it's close circle, and culturally it's almost it's the same cultural background. I mean, it's my friends, you know, mostly Bulgarians, and people should consider that. I think I actually got this advice from a designer in Plovdiv when we met, and what the guy said, sorry, I don't remember his name, but he was really on point, saying, you know, when you do a game, make sure you test it out with different kinds of people. I mean, people from the same cultural background would always like things better than others. There's things that important to you. So coming back to Essen, we got the chance there to play test it with people from all over the world. I mean, Asians, Latin American, North American people, people from, I would lie if I say we played with people from Africa, but it's almost from all over the world, and people liked it. What driven me was that they didn't just like it. Whoever played it wanted to buy it, wanted to participate in the game and to have the game, asked us about copies. And, we had like 30 copies and we sold them in 2 days, which left 4 days of playtesting. But that's really the point when you know that when people want to invest their time, when they want to invest their money, that means you have a good game. So this is basically what drives me into publishing this and what gives me this strength, to go on, because I must say it's a drag. I mean, the first few months are fine, but after half a year, after a year, you just feel like, why am I doing this? Just leave it. It's a nice game. You created it. Leave it be. Maybe someday, a publisher will call you. It doesn't happen. It needs a lot of work, I must say. It needs enormous enough of work to go on. But Essen and playing with people there was the thing that made me do it, really.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize the work that goes into not only game design, because you have this idealized vision in your head, at least a lot of people do, where a game designer, he designs games, he playtests them, and that's it. And fair enough, there are plenty of game designers who devote a lot of their time to only games, but when you still don't have a published game, it's kind of difficult to only devote all your time to the game. You also need to focus on promoting the game, getting it out there, and figuring out how to do that, because that's some would argue that's more than half the battle, because it's one thing when you're only playing with friends. It's totally a different thing when you're trying to share that game with the world and get more people involved and get more people to play your game. So I was gonna ask you about your plans for the future. Are you going to Kickstarter? Are you planning on going through a publisher? What are you gonna do?
Plan is definitely to go on with Kickstarter. I must say, at the start, I was having some really bold ideas of being able to sell your game, just through your website. I would say in my spare time, so because my profession, 9 to 5 is web developer. I was really hoping that, just creating a website would be all that you need to sell your game. It doesn't work like that, especially when you don't have a publishing studio. So for me, going to a publisher was never an option. I must admit that in times of hardships, I was like, yeah, man, why don't you just, go to somebody? People had interest. People approached us on Essen, distributors, publishers. They would like the game, but I really believe there's something more to it. I really believe that this game is kind of the start, because I want to create games, because I really like, first of all, the community. As a person, that's done cultural studies, and I've more or less studied every form of art that ever existed. I must say that board games, being new and being what they are, it's something amazing. So I really didn't feel like, being a mercenary, just creating a design, shipping it there or shipping it out there. I'm not doing that for the money. All things said and done, I can go for my daily life, having a normal job. For me, being a designer, it's not about making it, I don't want to buy a yacht with this, or I don't want my name being I don't want to see my company next to 10 million dollars on Kickstarter. This is not my goal at all. I feel like I want to create my own thing. And more or less, when you go to a publisher, a publisher will always try to sell it to the biggest audience possible. It's like movies, you can have The Godfather, but The Godfather is not good for the mainstream. The Godfather made the box offices by chance, while the really polished stuff, they have really round edges,
Mm-hmm.
They're not sharp. They don't have their own flavor. So I see myself more as an artist than as a crafter or a businessman when it comes to game design.
I totally get what you're saying, where you don't want to go as mainstream. You want it to stay your own thing. Because it's true, publishers will try and sell it to as many people as possible. And if that means retheming a game, or
Exactly.
if it means changing things, it's something that, designers, lots of game designers have to be all right with. And if you're not all right with it, it's completely fine to try and do it by yourself through Kickstarter and finding the audience, finding your own audience, instead of selling something that that there is an audience for.
That really a definite. I mean, at the end, designing is creating. You're not just refurbishing something or making something new with the old Lego parts. Making a spaceship out of a car. At the end, it's an artist's work because you create a whole world, and that's the narrative part that I really like. Because you get to tell a story. I mean, it might be the simplest story, it might be the spy that walks in a building and he's the only one that doesn't know what the building is, Spyfall, which is probably one of the simplest and still pretty fun game. Or it could be something immensely complex like Nemesis, which I'm a really big fan of, where you tell the story line by line, and each card turn, each tile that opens tells a new part of that story, and the players there, the actions, the action figures, that are on the board, they are you, and you are experiencing that story, which is the amazing part about games at all, as a whole.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you're doing a PhD on narrative game design. Was it? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, it's on digital narrative, or how narrative has changed in the digital age, but board games and video games are the main part of it.
Okay, so what I've noticed with Arcana Magica is that there isn't any written narrative, but there's definitely a feeling of things that you can feel a world almost, and even just the way that things are named in the game, how you imagine the narrative of Arcana Magica, or is there one? Is it free to interpretation, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get you. Now with Arcana Magica, it's I won't say complex, but it's strange in its own way, because basically the components come from the tarot cards. What I didn't know before even starting to design, and one of the first things I researched is that tarot cards were the whole 80 cards in the deck. So the 22 in the major arcana, and the 56, so 78 cards and 2 jokers, and the 56 in the minor arcana. Those were the cards that were used to play around since ages. I mean, the first tarot cards are found in ancient Egypt, 5,000-6,000 years ago. There's traces of it in Asia Minor, especially in the Jewish, not community, but religion. The numbers of and the names of the tarot cards, especially the major arcana, are the same as the Jewish alphabet. It's 22 letters and 22 cards. So they do have, this really, really deep religious significance, not just for the Jewish culture that even our religion, I mean, both Christianity and Islam come by. They evolved from there. I mean, they evolved from these really rudimentary places in people's minds, That's why they're, especially the major arcana is called, Strength, High Priestess, Hierophant, which is a word you don't use every day, the Sun, the World. They have this enormous symbolic strength to say to them. So that's why I don't really want to write fluff about it. I want to really leave it open to interpretation, but at the end it has to set a setting, because you have to start from somewhere. So for me, the Shadow Gallery is basically the place between both worlds, between the world of the shadows, the world of ideas, the world of ethos, as Platon calls it, and the physical world. The manifestation, which is aggressive, which has presence, which can harm and be potential threat to others. So I really see it as a game with the players being magicians, trying to fight each other for who controls fate and magic better, which I really think is reimbursed by using the card deck. I mean, the card deck could seem really random, but it's not. I mean, it has really good and really special mathematics about it. And this is the reason why card games, in terms of cards that are using poker decks, have an amazing variety, first of all, and have a really long history. I mean, as I mentioned, the dice, same goes along with cards, with the only reason for not being that popular is people not being able to print them that much. As you know, bones, stones from which you make dice of are basically all around you, while making paper and cutting out cards in the same shape with the same backs with different pictures, that's kind of a hard civilization task. So that's why they become popular a bit later, but they were around for a lot of time. So I must say, I mean, for me it was easy because I used components that were play tested for ages.
Yeah, and you really, what I really love about you as a designer is how much you research even, let's say, the tarot deck and the history behind these components, because you are using components that you didn't invent. It's cards, it's a tarot deck, it's dice, and you made a unique game out of those components. And the artwork which you put on these cards, I would say in itself is enough for most people to at least give the game a chance, because it's just so good. And I feel like there's a lot of symbolism in every card.
Well, that's more of it's not a chance, but that's more of an additional work. Not work, but it's an addition, to say so. And with you mentioning this, I must say that this is all Dilyana Buzhinova's contribution, because she's an artist and an illustrator that knows tarot. She loves tarot, and the reason that she made the major arcana was, first of all, she wanted to make her own tarot, the whole tarot deck, which is actually pretty significant because there are not many of them around. I mean, there's one that's really popular from the 19th century that you can buy in almost any bookshop or Amazon if you like. And there's really a few complete tarot decks that you can purchase. And actually, kudos for Kickstarter, because many, I must say, amazing artists were able to create their own tarot decks and to publish them. And people love them. I mean, there's a lot of tarot enthusiasts and a lot of tarot lovers around the world that would love to have this personal touch on their tarot. I mean, there's even luxurious tarot decks And it made sense. I mean, even Aleister Crowley, the Satanist cultist, is actually an Egyptologist. Wow, that's a hard word. So, yeah, Egyptologist, yeah. So he has his own tarot deck, and there's a few famous around. In Arcana Magica, the tarot is absolutely based on the tarot principles and the tarot canon. There's artist recreation and changes made by the artist, but these are tarot cards as tarot cards should be.
All right, so let's get to your influences. Like what you said that you started, you got into board games about around 5 years ago. You said you had 5 or 6. What are the games you like to play? Your favorite types of games?
So, in that sense, I must mention that, especially about Arcana Magica, which uses the poker deck, I must say that both my parents were card players, all their friends were, and playing cards was really a natural playtime around our house. I mean, we've played a number of games with my father and my mother since I was a really little kid. I mean, I remember I was 7 or 8, you can imagine how kids play, but I was amazed that you know exactly how many cards are in there, you know how many cards are in your hand. So if you want to change your destiny, I mean, you have to change your game according to what you have in your hand. This famous expression in English, play the cards you dealt with. For me, playing card games, it was what gave meaning to that, adjusting yourself to the situation. So I must say that I've played a lot of card games as a kid and later on, which is really a major influence for Arcana Magica. And then stepping into the board game community, actually, you got me thinking on what was the first game that I actually played. I would need some time to remember, but I can conveniently say what was the first game that I bought. It was Eldritch Horror, the base game, which I luckily bought from a shop that was just my workplace. It was the first board game shop to open in Sofia, and it was just next to my workplace. I had watched a few YouTube videos. I don't remember the name of the guy, but he played the whole game of Eldritch Horror, and I was amazed. I mean, I couldn't believe that this is actually happening, that someone is printing those, that they look so nice, that they give you such a deep gameplay and you can play them with friends. It's not like a video game when you just close yourself down and you just, video games are more or less lazy. Everything's there for you, and everything is made for you to be easy. While, just getting out the board of Eldritch Horror, which is really a table hoarder, especially I didn't have expansions then, but come on, you have like 7 main decks, you have your investigators, you have the world map, you have all the gates that are opening. I mean, just handling that as a person, for others so they can play, really gave me a nice kick. And from this point forward, I already had a really nice group that I played with, and we played almost everything. Again, it was actually a really nice experience, because if you think about it, 5-6 years ago, it's when actually the hobby started picking up heavily because of Kickstarter. And for me, it feels amazing to be part of that history. Having a new game on the table almost every month, just a new Kickstarter arrived. Hey guys, this thing arrived, or this game arrived. Come on, okay, we're all playing. Everyone watches, the gameplay videos before that, so we can sit on the table prepared. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's when they really took off. And Eldritch Horror, I haven't actually gotten to play it yet, but from what I know of it, it's very much narrative focused. You also said that you were into D&D when we spoke earlier.
Yeah, role playing as a whole. Currently, I play PUBG too, but I have a lot of D&D games in my past. Before, I must say, it was before I started board games. We started with D&D. It was the same group actually that got me started. And this is another mention. This is a piece of Bulgarian history right there. So I'm sure this could be interesting. I don't know if you remember, but there were these books, choose your own adventure books.
Yeah,
right?
I remember
Everybody
as a
knows that.
kid
Yeah.
playing with them.
Yeah, but do you remember that the publishing house started making actual board games?
No.
It was amazing. So they made like 20 board games, which were sort of a print and play thing. So you get your box, which is no, you don't even get a box. You get kind of a magazine-sized book and a lot of A4 print sheets, which have your old figures, the game board, even the dice. So you have to cut them out, glue them down, and you have a board game. And I had all of those. I mean, they managed to publish like 25 or 26 games. Swear to God, they're still on my attic in Sofia. I haven't played most of them, like you do with board games. But this was amazing piece of history.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to get back on the topic, really sorry, but I thought this might be really interesting. Anyways, back to role playing. I started with my group, I would say 7 or 8 years ago. I already knew what could happen, but it was this choose your own adventure feeling. I mean, this is the point that I felt that video games could be too straightforward. I mean, when we started playing role-playing games, we were just, we go, grind, get weapons, kill, get experience, get better weapons, kill, get experience, and so on, a really close-off circle. But then you flood a cave, by redirecting the river, you kill everyone in it, or something like that, and, another door opens, a door that you can do everything that you do in your normal life. Just be creative, be yourself, express yourself, and that's why I love role playing, and that's why I still do it.
Yeah,
I find it amazing.
That's what gets most people into role playing, is that you don't have that closed feeling where where the designer or whoever made the game has to push you in some direction. There is a small pull, but if you choose to, you can do what you want, and if it's a good dungeon master, he's going to be able to respond in a way that he makes the game respond to your input, which I think is very difficult to accomplish when you just have a set mechanic, and you have only a game to be it a video game or a board game. Now, of course, I'm not saying that board games and video games are. I would say they're just different, as in there's a bit more freedom. Yes. There's a bit more freedom in D&D to express yourself, and I think that's the beauty of it. Though I haven't played as much D&D as I have board games and video games.
Well, it's a different medium, and that's what we don't usually realize when we consume it. Because if you think about it, it's not just what the medium can offer, it's what the producer can offer. So with board games, we have this natural limitations of a table size. I mean, at the end, when you want to create something, you want to create it to fit on a table. In that sense, I can say that Kingdom Death Monster it's an amazing and that's why it became a classic, because it still fits on the table, but it tells an epic story. While in video games, you get the chance to create an open world game a lot easier. I mean, right now I'm playing Assassin's Creed. I was going to say in Greece, the Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah.
And it really strikes me how I can relive absolutely everything. Not absolutely everything, but I can relive a whole portion of the Mediterranean, one of the places where our civilization started. You can be there. I mean, you can get a ship, you can go another place. But, this has all been pre-generated. With board games, you don't get that. I mean, the only pre-generated thing is your board map,
But
the board itself.
the video game industry is also like so huge that they can make these huge worlds, and there's really no limit. Like last year when the fire in Paris in Notre Dame, I remember that Assassin's Creed, they actually took the models that they used to make it for their Assassin's Creed game to fix it. So they put in so much detail that it can really completely engulf you in this world.
Yeah, it's a lot more submersive, but we must say the other natural limit to any game, be it a board game or a video game, is finance. I mean, finance does play a really big role in all of this. Because I mean, everyone can create a game like that, but no one can create Assassin's Creed. You need Ubisoft for that. You need the money that's behind Ubisoft. You need the sheer resource of getting so many developers working for so many time. I mean, when you think about it, GTA 5 was developed for 5 years. Red Dead Redemption 2 was developed in 8 years, I think. Those are really immense expenses in artists, in developers, in designers, marketing. I mean, everything. This is a really big machine, and this is the beauty of gaming because everyone can create it. I mean, this is why indie games became so popular. Like 8 to 10 years ago, the Xbox Arcade, many of them went mainstream. In the PlayStation Shop after that, in the on the shelves, and that's what I really like about board games. I mean, if you have a good product, if you can focus enough resources on it, you can create a good game. And we must mention Kickstarter again here because this is actually a game changer. I mean, crowd-funded economics didn't exist 10 years ago. Sometimes it's hard to imagine this, but we should not forget that in order to create a board game 10 years ago, you needed a really serious amount of money to start, to design, to play test, to produce, to ship, and then start selling. I mean, we get the easy part right now. I mean, all of this is already done. You just need to convince people that this is worth it. This is not as hard task as producing a whole game.
Yeah, this is what's really freeing right now in the board game industry is that if you can make a good game and convince people that you have a good game, still you're gonna have to pay for some, artwork and things like that. But if you can convince people that you have a good enough game, then it's possible to actually make it. So it does get more people are able to do it now.
No, actually, what I mean is more like the market is open to independent producers, which is amazing. I mean, if you think how much this changed the music industry, for example, because more or less designers are not. Yeah, I mean, I want to think myself of as an artist, but I don't have the artist talent. I mean, illustrators, they have the artist talent for drawing. So coming back to the music industry, in the 80s when hip hop emerged, people were not musicians. I mean, those were normal people living off the corners, usually in poverty even. What they had was some music, a gramophone or the tape cassette players that could remix. And they just started remixing. They started creating their own beats. When they started creating their own beats, they started creating their own rhymes. After having the rhymes and the beats, They started creating tapes. When they have the tapes, they started selling those tapes to people that would listen to. And then you had, radios like Stretch and Bubito that were able to spread the word around. Like we have Kickstarter now, you have Kickstarter and you have all those amazing vlogs. I wouldn't even call them vlogs. They're not vlogs. They're absolutely masterfully done productions, which is quality content that talks about board games. And if you have a good game, you can go to them. But we should not underestimate really the hardship of creating a quality game. Everyone is amazed when you see a Kickstarter, done by a publishing agency, and we should know that this costs a lot of money. At the end, it's hard to convince people because board games also mean quality. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to convince people in the quality that you can produce if you haven't produced it yet. But still, making one copy of a game is a lot easier than making 2,000 or 3,000. And lest I forget, I should say, talking about Kickstarter, speaking with friends of mine that have successful Kickstarters, for example, Wolfed, if anyone listening backed it, people, and also Strength of the Sword, the video game, when I spoke to the creators, they both said that they were amazed by the community because they both have issues. For example, Strength of the Sword was hard to. I mean, it's a funny story that it's not gonna take too long. So they put on the stretch goals, and they never believed that they would get to $100,000. They never thought that this could happen. So they said, if we make $100,000, the game would be available everywhere. All around on PlayStation, Xbox, Wii U, Switch, doesn't matter. You name a console, the game would be there. Turned out it wasn't that easy. So when the guy, just communicated that, when he said, guys, sorry, but maybe we won't be able to make a Switch port and so on, everybody said, don't care, man. It's fine. You did an amazing game. It's all okay. The other thing with Wolfed, they had some postage issues. One in 100, but it could still happen. And there were people that didn't get their game for like 6 months, and actually the producers had to contact them and tell them, I think you didn't get your game. Mm-hmm. And people, oh yeah, sure, don't worry about it, just send it, it's fine. Which is the support that independent publishers really need, because that's the thing. When you're an independent publisher, you don't have this well-oiled machine that can, that's perfect, that creates the perfect art with the perfect box, shipped perfectly, and so on. And I think this is the spirit that made, I would say, small companies make it big, like Awakened Realms. At the end, Awakened Realms didn't start with enormous investment and so on. They just made good games. People started trusting them. They just made better games. And that's what I believe in. I mean, of course, I want to create the perfect game from the start, but I know that when anything goes wrong, I have the support of the people that like it.
Yeah, that's that's really important. Having that support and being able to show that you're making progress, because people love to see you making progress when, as an independent creator, when you make something and then it's really a road where you make better and better things, hopefully, and people love to see that.
People love the underdog. But still, I mean, there's a threshold. We should mention that that doesn't mean, lacking in quality. That means if, and worst case scenario, something happens, people got your back. But no one would support you if you don't try your best, or if you just send them something that's not well done or not done at all.
So can you tell people where they can find out more about Arcana Magica? Yeah, your website, when you're planning on going on Kickstarter.
Actually, I'm having a call with Diliana just after we speak. The details on the Kickstarter are more or less polished. We are starting our work on the illustrations and the design. I'm really hoping that it won't take much. The legalities are there, meaning our company is functioning properly actually since January. So what I would say is visit our website. You can actually pre-order there. It's selling on a promotional price at this point. And speaking about Kickstarters, I must say that our plan is to have this as a really, really limited edition. Probably 3,000 or 4,000 copies would be made as a whole. I mentioned quality, and I really don't believe that our small company could provide the quality necessary if we sell over 4,000 copies. I must say, it's still kind of a long shot, selling more than 4,000 copies of your first game. I know that, but it's a cap that we really need to put on ourselves. Because as I mentioned, it's not about getting greedy, it's not about how much money I can make. It's for me, and for all of us, because we're not a small team. We are like 10 people at this point, currently working on both the digital and printing side. So in order to ensure this, I must say that Kickstarter would be very limited. Now, I mentioned our website. You can find the rules there. You can find a gallery with the amazing illustrations. I hope I did right by them, creating the website for that. Also, we do have a Twitch stream that is not exactly live at the moment, but as you know, as we yesterday did, games are being played there. There's definitely going to be a few tournaments because we already had a tournament and it was tons of fun. I really can't wait to make another tournament. Definitely. I think this is what Arcana Magica is made for. The game is on Tabletop Simulator. The game is on Tabletopia, awaiting publishing. I hope in the next few days it will be up. It's really a proud of mine because first you helped me a lot with Tabletop Simulator, but I managed to prepare all my visuals for the game. We play tested it a lot, so I think it plays really well, both on Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator. And I would say that this is it. On the digital part, you should know that there is dice throwing app that we're gonna use when there's more copies, definitely. But there's an app that helps you throwing the dice, getting through the rules, and we are in the process of creating also a mobile app. The mobile app is really close. I guess the open beta would mostly coincide with the Kickstarter. So we're really, really, really hard at work. I would say just write Arcana Magic in Google and follow the first thing that you find.
All right. Well, I really hope that you make it because I know that you put your heart and soul in this game, and not only you but also Diliana. So I'm really waiting for that Kickstarter, and I'm waiting to back it. And thank you for coming on the podcast.
I must say, this is my first podcast and it felt amazing. I hope I didn't speak too much, but that's what podcasts are for. And before saying goodbye, I must say that I hope we get to speak more about your game. Because what people don't know, but us being friends, I've played the first versions of Satchel. I really like to think that I helped contribute to it. But playing the last version that you published on Tabletop Simulator that we played together, I must say this is amazing. I'm sure that if I get more time, I would spend it playing Satchel at least another few more games because I see that there's deepness in it, there's variety. And I still feel lucky winning my last game. I want to set a pattern to it, not being comfortable, feeling like a lucky winner.
Yeah, well, the game is changing a lot, and we published a solo game, especially for people who are stuck at home right now. That was the idea. But now we're also working to make a bigger game, and we're in the process. So we're hoping to also go on Kickstarter probably in a couple of months. Yeah. We haven't announced it yet, but thank you very much. That makes me feel good that you like the game.
No, I mean, what I must say is for people that don't know you personally, that you and your brother are, first of all, amazing designers. I was amazed by it. We should mention that actually we met because I really liked your game and you really liked ours, so it was really natural for us. But spending time with you, I was always amazed with the good ideas you come up with. I mean, really, if anyone's if anyone should believe me, you believe me about that. The Alexiev brothers just come up with amazing ideas by the day. And I'm really glad, and I must say, you should be proud that you're focused on them, that you made it to the end. I mean, at the end, your first game is absolutely ready for publishing. Satyo is already published. You have your good ideas, and you manage to work on them and to bring them to the end. Because a lot of people have good ideas, but really the work that comes after is what's stopping the many. So really, kudos on that. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, we're a team, and that's what we push each other to make things, you know. So
yeah, it helps a lot. I really believe it helps a lot, but it's amazing. I must say that it comes from the bottom of my heart. I hope a lot of people come to this podcast, that you get to interview a lot of people. And if mine should be remembered for something, it should be for how many ideas that you have and how good are they, really.
All right. Thank you. And okay, that's it.